Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm sorry I have not been present here. If you've followed me for years, you know that I'm a wedding videographer and my couples take first priority. But recently, so many of you have messaged me and said things on the marriage video and my testimony video that I really need to respond. And I just feel like a text doesn't do it justice. Women have sent me emails, just like really crying out about their situation with their husband. And even some people who have expressed that they are addicted to porn also. I'm not addicted anymore. I haven't looked at porn in years and years. I will say that while the Christian community here on YouTube is awesome, and I'm definitely a consumer of it, I have found that there just haven't been very many videos of people who admit to a continual struggle with it. All the videos that I have seen, the man has said that they used to look at it and then they had like a come to Jesus moment, or like a moment where they realized it was not good for them to do anymore, and then they never did it again. Like that. Like I can think of 3 guys off the top of my head that most of you guys would know that have said they've never struggled with it again. And I'll say that's so awesome. Like that's like our hope and prayer, right? That our husbands would be ultimately completely free. But I'll just say that has not been our story. That's not been our story. And there's nothing like wrong with that, because I've seen some people in the comments say like, how could her husband do that? Like kind of like looking down on my husband, and oh my gosh, like who are they to judge, first of all? But also this is a very complex issue. And I wish, shoot, my 22-year-old self, who was fighting and crying all the time and struggling, definitely would have hoped that there was a solid, concrete end to this. But look around you. We live in a world where Facebook is about to become a metaverse, where people are going to be able to interact through virtual reality, and that will be the new form of social media. I'm sure I will not be partaking in that. It's fine if you want to do that. I just have certain limits with where I'm going to let my mind and soul and body go. And I just think virtual reality is kind of taking it a little too far for me, especially someone who really values reality and like the truth of life. So anyway, all that to say, like, it's hard to escape this kind of temptation when it is literally everywhere. Like if you watch shows right now, like freaking Game of Thrones from several years ago that everyone loved, like our household didn't partake in watching that. And then right now Yellowstone is really big, and there's a lot of nudity in that show too. And I'll say we do watch that together as a couple, but we fast forward through all of the nude scenes and sex scenes and stuff. I will say in our journey, we have come so far. We have come so freaking far, you guys. Like, I mostly want this video to just be a resource for you women who are in a continued struggle, because I know what that's like. We are in a continued struggle. And I say that in that we are so intentional with how we live that it doesn't really leave much room for failure, if that makes sense. So I don't know how households and couples do it, where their husband has a laptop, an iPad, an iPhone, Netflix, complete access like on their Xbox or their PlayStation. Like I don't know how people live like that, because if we lived like that, those are just too many open doors. That's not something that Josh and I, either of us, are comfortable with. Like we both have agreed. And I've wanted to get into the nitty gritty of like the steps that we've taken. And I'll say in our personal real life, like with people and friends that we have shared with them these tips. And I'll just be really honest, most of them don't want to follow through with what it takes to be completely clean or free. But Josh and I always talk about the metaphor of a cocaine addict. So like whenever you have a drug addict who's addicted to cocaine, you would never just set cocaine on the middle of the dining room table and then walk away and say, hey, stay strong. Like you would never do that. That's borderline cruel, knowing their past. And so that's how we view media and like anything with a screen. We view everything with a screen as like cocaine, essentially. And that sounds like my husband has literally no self-control, but that's not true either. we just don't even like to give room for temptation. And if people think that I'm the hard A, like the jerk wife who's like coming down hard on all of this, that is not the case. I let Josh tell me what we need to do, and then we move forward from there. And I'm so grateful for our transparency. Like, Josh is a very strong, godly, incredible man with a heart of gold. This is just a struggle that we've had, that both of us have had from childhood due to different circumstances. And if you look into your family line, sometimes it's generational too. Like, I'm pretty spiritual, and so I spiritualize things in that I just know that some of this is generational, like a generational curse, if you will. And things like that just have to be prayed through. They have to be fought against very actively. And so we are changing our line as a family. Like, with our daughter, we break that curse over our lives, and we're going to watch her grow up very carefully, Lord willing, as long as we live on this earth with her. We're not going to be helicopter parents, but knowing how Satan works and knowing how he has touched our lives, we're going to be very intentional with our daughter. Ladies, you who are still struggling with this with your husband, you who like maybe came from my marriage video to this video, I will give you some practical things that we have done. Like, this is the nitty gritty of what we've done. And if your husband does not feel comfortable moving forward with that, all you have is prayer. And all you have is just asking the Lord to somehow bring breakthrough into your life. But for us, this has been a game changer for us. I'll be very transparent. Our sex life is thriving. It has been for many years now, because of our intentionality. We have had these practices, these policies implemented in our home for, I'm trying to think, since 2018, because I was pregnant when we were like, all right, things have got to freaking change. The first one is locking up all remotes or any access points to media while the wife is out of the home. So when I am gone doing something, meeting a friend, going to church, I film weddings, like when I'm off working, when me and my daughter are gone and Josh has the opportunity to be home by himself, we go through the annoying steps that it takes to make sure all those things are secured and that Josh does not have access to them. And there will be days where I ask him, I'm like, do you want me to lock things up? And he'll be like, yes, lock things up. And then there will be other days where I'm like, do you want me to lock things up? And he'll be like, I'm good. I'm just going to watch this or something like that. And so the days when he does decide to keep a device open to himself while I'm gone, he always asks me to follow up with asking him if he was good. And so I'll come home, we'll chat, whatever, and I'll be like, hey, were you good? And people might not like that level of knowing or intimacy. Some men have like really strong accountability partners, and I'll say Josh has had that over the years. But as we've grown and as other men struggle, because honestly, most of the time their accountability partners also struggle with the same thing. And when that guy is living in shame, it's like he doesn't want to hold the other guy accountable. There's just different seasons of life. But anyway, Josh has had accountability through the years. But I will say, no one knows your husband like you know your husband. No one can see through the cover like a wife can. Or maybe that's just who I am. Maybe I'm just hypersensitive. Because I was a big liar too. Like, my testimony too. I can see when someone is BSing me. I will kind of like go there with someone. I'm not afraid. Some people might just be okay with, a very surface level answer like, yeah, everything was good. But I'm like, was it really good? Like, are you sure? Like, I'll give you one more chance to tell me the truth. And like, it might seem like I'm a crazy mothering person, but I don't care. I don't care. Because we have broken chains off of this family that never would have been broken. And that's our testimony. This is our walk. And I would love to have Josh here with me. Like, I would love to get him in a video just to show you like the blessing that this format has been for us. So much so that we have had other people coming to us saying, how do you guys do it? Like, we know your story. Josh said he hasn't looked at porn in 3 years. How are you doing this? And we've even walked with a guy who struggles with like homosexuality. And so Josh has like helped him through like maybe moving away from like gay porn and like going towards something that's more God honoring, like just steps toward freedom and healing. Because he doesn't want to be in bondage to this addiction. Like, no guy wants to be in bondage to these sexual addictions that they have, because it robs you of your actual sex life. And it's not like, I don't want to be with someone who I don't know everything about. While it's been painful to know every single thing about Josh and for him to know every single thing about me, guess what? We actually really freaking love each other. And whenever the fit hits the shan again, like whenever life goes south again, like our miscarriage, like we are in the trenches together because we have removed every barrier. And I see so many couples being in the wedding industry. I see a lot of marriage and I see a lot of divorce. And I see this like wall that couples hit where it's like they won't go past this part to get to the unconditional love that's on the other side. But this part right here is gross. It's yucky. It's knowing all of the dark thoughts that your partner may have. It's knowing their proclivities. It's knowing every little like thing that could potentially tempt them. It's praying for them in the summertime whenever you know, like we live in a college town where the booty shorts come out in the summertime and girls wear basically nothing, like crop tops and stuff. It's knowing like, Lord, please guide and direct my husband's eyes today while I'm taking care of a toddler and he's out in the world. And maybe some people are like, more power to women for showing everything. But I will tell you, I used to be one of those women who showed everything, and it usually wasn't coming from a good place. It was usually coming from vanity and desire for attention. There's so many like topics on sexuality and marriage and just the way human beings are that I could get into. For the sake of this video, I kind of just wanted to check in with people and say like, hey, we're still walking this walk. You don't just like get over it one day. We'll have a hiccup here and there where Josh is like, hey, yeah, like the Netflix account, like I got rid of it because it was a temptation. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Like sometimes I'm kind of bummed. I'm like, oh great, like now we can't watch Netflix. But then I'm like, yeah, whatever, I don't need it anyway. And shoot, I don't want that door to be open. Like if he's man enough to admit that something is a struggle, then oh my gosh, I'm the wife, I'm his helpmate. I'm here for him. I'm going to help him in that. Like, I'm not going to be selfish and be like, why can't you control yourself? Believe me, I used to be there. Like when you saw my last video, I've done all the belittling. I've done all the blaming. I've done all the prideful head games. I've done it all. I have been just a total wretch to live with. We just aren't there anymore. Praise the Lord. Praise God for how much he has worked in our lives. And I'm too grateful and too experienced now to try to make this about me again. It's not about me anymore. Like at some point you hit a place in your marriage, we've been married for 8 years now, where it's just like, you know what? Whatever helps you, bub. Like I got you. Plus I'm a freaking mother now to where with my toddler, like she was up twice last night and I'm just like, it's okay. It's not about me anymore. It's not about me anymore. It's not about my sleep. And don't worry, I take time for myself. I do what I need to do for myself. But I'm passionate about the fruit that comes from just following God's way. And the Bible is pretty harsh about these things. If your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. So that's kind of our form of doing that with these things, with locking up all devices. Or if I go to a wedding, I will take all the remotes and my laptop, and I'll take the mouse to my computer and the power cord. Just like he has no access points. That way he can come home and be at peace. Like he can come home and think, I'm going to clean the pool, or I'm going to smoke a cigar, or I'm going to read a book because he likes to read. He can come home and be at peace instead of having like these whispers all around the home while we're gone, thinking like, oh, am I going to look at it? No, resist. Like he doesn't have to deal with that because I want to partner with him in protecting him. So that might sound so weird to the world. I don't really care how it sounds. It has worked for us. I am a very open communicator, if you can't tell. I communicate weekly about our sex life and where we need to be, or what days we should, or like, hey, like let's do a date night, things like that. Very intentional with that. We don't mess around with that anymore. It's not some weird guessing game. I used to romanticize it and try to like make it this thing that was unpredictable and fun and exciting, but we don't do that anymore. Sex is fun and exciting whenever you trust your partner more. Sex is more fun and exciting when you're not partaking in porn and masturbation. Sex, like honestly guys, like I'm super blunt and transparent. So from a Christian mom, woman to you, from me to you, the enjoyment from it has never been better because I can be my total and complete open self with him. I'm less guarded, and it's just such a loving time. So anyway, if you guys have any questions, just leave them down below. I'm pretty much an open book. I try to say things with tact. Like if you met me in person, I'm even much more blunt for this video. And for all of you ladies who have messaged me, I'm sorry that you're going through this. It is not fun. I've been in the emotional, crazy, devastated stage, and I'll say, without anything changing, nothing's going to change. So nothing changes if nothing changes. So we had to make changes. We had to link arms together, like get on the same page, me and Josh, and fight this problem together. Instead of fighting each other and attacking each other, our mentor said, link arms and attack the problem. So that's what we've done. For our DVR, like our cable, which no one has cable anymore, but we do because it's cheap with our Wi-Fi. For our DVR, I have all the parental controls. I know the codes. Even for my phone, guys, on my phone, Josh doesn't know my passcode. I'm trying to think of every open door that you can possibly think of. And we've met with these guys and like we've helped them through their struggle, and Josh will lock down all of their devices the same way. And so on Josh's phone, like we can go through the extensive part if you want, but Josh's phone is pretty much useless. Like it's just a phone that we have, like his Safari app is the only internet app he has. And on the controls, he can only go to a limited set of websites that he has chosen. Yeah, it's so locked down, and that way, once again, he doesn't have to look at his phone and keep making these decisions like, oh, I wonder if, oh, maybe I shouldn't, oh, I don't know. Like, he doesn't have to do that. Like, his phone is a peaceful place for his mind and for temptation to not be a thing. And he's expressed, like, one day we want to pursue total and complete freedom to where he can have devices open to him. But in this broken, fallen world, and such a stressful time in the world, I don't know. Porn is a freaking pandemic. Like it is. Like if you think there's people who are just not looking at porn every day who are not heavily addicted, you're wrong. I see it in my DMs. I see it in these comments. People saying like, I look at it every day, multiple times a day. There's a girl that I talked to several weeks ago who she's like, I masturbate like 12 times a day and I don't know how to stop. Like this is a real thing. Like it's not something that I'm like, oh, maybe one day it'll just all get better and I'll stop controlling things. Like, no, like this is a real problem that we're going to continue to fight probably the rest of our lives. I look at men all around and I used to think like, oh, he probably is such a godly man and doesn't look at porn. Wrong. We've been to marriage conferences where these awesome pastors and stuff, they admit that this is a continued struggle for them and that they're pretty locked down or they have accountability partners or covenant eyes and all this stuff. So get the lies out of your head that you're the only one. You are not the only one. Certainly not the only gender. Men are not the only gender that struggle with this. Porn is a never-ending black hole. I mean, it will keep serving what you keep asking it to serve and then some. So the dopamine levels in your brain will always have something to grab onto. It will always be a place that the brain and the body can go to for temporary pleasure. And while that is such an available commodity, I think the steps that we have taken have been actually pretty realistic. Leaving our children open to devices and things like that it may seem extreme, but I'm telling you, it's actually, I view it the opposite way. I'm like, wow, if you are leaving your family vulnerable and open, you're naive. Like, you're just naive, and maybe you just don't know. Or maybe your husband just doesn't have a high sex drive. I don't know. I'm telling you what works for us, and really good fruit has come from it. Clear-headedness, better communication when we're arguing or struggling, just more loving, more kind. It's everything I could have wanted. Do I wish that we could live in a perfect place where we didn't have to go through these measures? Yeah, I do, of course. But this is the thing we're walking through. This is what we're dealing with. So, another thing, my husband doesn't have any social media other than Facebook. Anyways, you guys, it is not easy, and the Lord is so near to you in this struggle. I never felt like he was in those emotional hurt moments But looking back now, he was just guiding me as a wife, teaching me how to love unconditionally and forgive over and over and over again, and teaching Josh how to forgive me too, because I was not kind, and teaching him how to humble himself and ask for help. It taught me not to judge people and to understand that this is a problem that almost every single household in the world struggles with, other than blind people. I've honestly been like, man, blind people are like, I know this girl who's married to a blind guy, and I'm just like, man, she's just it. But then he doesn't even get to know what she looks like. So that's kind of a downer also. But because she's a beautiful woman, but he can't even see her. So anyway, this is not easy. And we shouldn't act like it's easy. I don't for 1 second say, oh, we have it all figured out now. Like, absolutely not. We don't. This isn't everyone problem. This is a human problem. The Bible talks about sexuality quite a bit if you want to read about it. It touches all of us. It's a big catalyst for the sex industry and for sex trafficking. And that is a very convicting factor for us as a family. I don't know how you could be a Christian and think that viewing porn is okay, even in your marriage bed. I've heard several stories of people doing this to like just for fun, like it's fine as long as we do it together. It's not fine. It's not fine. It's not normal to watch other people have sex. It's just not. And I'm going to say the truth. I'm going to say it loud and proud. God has better plans for us. So, once again, ladies, I am so sorry that you're going through the struggle that you're in. Keep praying, keep fighting, get yourself in church, get your husband surrounded by godly men, get yourself surrounded by godly women that you can share your heart with, and your brokenness with, and your feelings with. Because they will call out things in your life that you could never see, and they will help you. And that's the way that God designed his body, is to be just this beautiful puzzle of people working together to become more like him, to become more like the bride of Christ. Anyways, you guys, I just wanted to share those like really practical things that we've done. And maybe I will share more in the future. Leave any questions below. You guys have been, like I said, so good about like emailing me, messaging me about your stories, and I won't stop listening to them. I won't stop understanding them, because like I said, this has touched us deeply, and we get it. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great time of day, whatever time of day it is for you. And I'm gonna go get my daughter up from her nap now, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.
This is my awakening. The one my heart was fast asleep. You were resurrected.